Well, we are 101, almost on the dot. So I'm going to kick us off here. My name is Katie Dre. I'm a charitable giving advisor here at the Community Foundation. I have a lot of staff colleagues here. Raise a hands. Lots of staff support. We're so pleased to see you all here today. Um, I recognize a few of you, but I've been in the job about 9 months, and my role focuses around leading our nonprofit agency funds. So really excited to get to meet more of you over the next months and years ahead. So thank you for being here. Couple housekeeping items. I think many of you are familiar with this space, but if it's your first time here, we have bathrooms. If you go out this door right to the right, there's bathrooms out there. We have your water and pop and a few little treats out today, so please help yourself. Welcome to our online Zoom attendees. We're glad you're here too. We will send out the slides to the presentation after today, so be looking for those. I think that's all for housekeeping. And I wanted to just take a minute while I get to be up in front of you all and talk about the Community Foundation. I know I've spoken to a couple of you that are brand new, even as new as August. And so I just want to talk to you about who we are and a little bit about what we do. So obviously, our mission is to really improve the quality of life for all by promoting charitable giving, connecting donors with causes they care about, and providing leadership in the community. We are so thankful for you all because you are out there, the hands and feet, doing the work for your missions. So really pleased that a guidepost of our mission is that we really believe in investing in our nonprofit sector and amplifying your effort. So one of the ways we seek to do this is to provide training opportunities and resources for you. So I am eager to hear your feedback today. You do have some surveys at your table. We will put up a QR code at the end for anyone online. Give us your feedback. As a new person at the Community Foundation, I'm really seeking to know how we can better support you when it relates to your charitable giving. A little bit more by the numbers here. Whoop. Here's us in a snapshot. We have roughly 2,600 charitable funds under our management. 680 of those are agency funds. So it is our second largest book of business. That's why we are so thankful you guys are all here wanting to learn more. Really exciting is that we hit the $1 billion mark in assets under management this year. So we are quietly celebrating that at the moment. 62 million in grants went out back into the community. A lot of your organizations were the recipient of those grants in 2023. Another thing I like to lift up is that 46 affiliates are statewide, and I hope that a few of those are online today. JC's here, who is part of our affiliate program, working throughout the state to promote charitable giving in those different community foundations. And then we have 88 charitable investment partners that we work with. So those are your financial advisors that your donors can have. They already have those relationships with and they trust them. They can stay with them and the fund would be held here and their investment partner would manage those funds. So it's a very important relationship for us. And Ryan up there in the back, who many of you know because he was in my position prior, is our lead on that. So thanks, Ryan. So without further ado, it is now my privilege. Woo, I like your transitions, Tiffany. It is an honor to be able to introduce Tiffany. I'm going to read this off because you have many post-nominal letters behind your name. She comes to us with a chartered advisor in philanthropy, a certified exit planning advisor, a fellow in charitable estate planning, and tax, estate, and charitable strategist. So Tiffany comes with us with a wealth of knowledge and experience. She's actually CEO of 2 different companies, one that is focused around guiding families and clients through intricate situations of transitioning businesses, planning philanthropy, estate planning, and tax concerns. And the other business is the Gift Planning Institute, which works with nonprofits to enhance donor and interactions and gift planning programs. So one thing that I think is fun to note, Tiffany comes to us from Scottsdale, Arizona, and lives on an urban farm. and our friends at the Arrow might appreciate this. She rescues animals, and besides horses and cats and dogs and all the fun furry things, she also has a bearded dragon and a python. So we talked about that a little bit at lunch today. I'm definitely afraid of snakes, but without further ado, help me welcome Tiffany. We really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so much. All right, can everybody hear me all right? All right, good. Well, thank you for being here today. I like to make our presentations interactive and fun. So if you have questions that come up, please feel free to ask them and engage. We'll just want to make sure that we stay timely and that we finish at the hour and a half that that you committed to. So my background is I call myself a recovering financial advisor. I was in practice for 17 years with my father, and we focused on ultra high net worth individuals and very complex scenarios. Everybody was a business owner, a lot of business sales and that type of thing. So I have the technical knowledge and love, but we're not going to get very technical today. We're going to talk more about how you as an organization can either enhance or develop a planned giving program. So how many people here have a dedicated planned giving officer in their organization? All right. Oh, okay. One organization, are you guys the same organization? Yeah, okay. So that's all right, because what we need to talk about is plan giving is another tool in our belt. It is allowed out there to really help our organizations grow and be a benefit to our donors. And when you go and let's say you're working on a campaign and asking for a $50,000 gift, if you get a no, why not ask them if they've ever thought of leaving you in their will or their trust? How easy is that? And if they say no to that, then talk about increasing their annual giving. So I want you to know that it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to know all the tax and implications and all of that knowledge. That's what the Community Foundation of Greater Des Moines is here for you for, to help you when it gets more technical and when you need assistance, as well as the professional advisors that are in your community. So we want to keep it fun, and we want definitely to keep it interactive. So please feel free to raise your hands. A lot of my slides I don't necessarily cover, is there for you to have as a reference after the fact. So do note that. And what we're going to talk about today is why you should consider starting or enhancing your plan giving program. Donor psychology, we're going to go through 8 different concepts of donor psychology. We'll also go through 12 best practices. There's 12 components to having a well laid out plan giving program. We'll discuss lowest hanging fruits and go into a few of those strategies. I have tools matrix for you as well, so you can not have to know everything or gather it all, but I like to call it a cheat sheet, or two. I have 2 cheat sheets for you, one on charitable trusts and then one on donor benefits. So with that, I just want you to know that everything I say up here is not necessarily the truth. We're going to go ahead and make some assumptions and have a little bit of fun. And one of my favorite slogans is cash is for amateurs. If you're asking for cash from your organization, it's kind of like, you know, a grandchild or a child's first birthday when they dive into that cake. It's wonderful to have cash gifts, but there's more tax efficient ways to go about asking for gifts than cash. So we're going to get into some of that today. Why do you need to have a plan giving program? So those who do know a lot about plan giving, you might have heard of Dr. Russell James from Texas Tech University. He has done a lot of research. I will talk about him a few times today. And he also has like a YouTube channel, maybe, I don't know, I'm not very good on social media, but he has a bunch of YouTube videos that you can watch and download for free, and he lets you use his content. I did ask him personally if I could use it, but he lets everybody use it. So this was a study that was done for nonprofit organizations, and they looked at their 990s. So they looked at the tax form filing that they put forth for the IRS, and there's 3 different ways on the 990 to classify the gifts that you get. There's cash, non-cash, and securities. So when they went back, these are all organizations that had over $1 million budget. And when they looked over a 5-year time period, they found that the nonprofits that received only cash gifts, they only grew at 11%. Those that received cash and non-cash gifts, those grew at 50%. And the organizations that asked for, or that received cash, non-cash, and securities grew at 66%. So this is a little dated, but 11% over 5 years, that's not even keeping up with inflation right now. So that's really telling you that those nonprofits that are only getting cash gifts are stagnant. They're not out there growing and developing. Now, why is it that we go up from 50% to 65% when we include securities? It's Dr. Russell James has said this, and it's my belief too, or somehow I have this opinion. When we teach our donors to give us assets like stock, we're teaching them that we're a resource that they can come to, and they're going to come to us with other asset gifts. So we're teaching them how to be better philanthropists. So this is an example of a $100 gift. So if you had a $100 gift and a person was in a 35% tax bracket, the actual cost of that gift would be $65. They get a $35 deduction, so they get to save $35 that they would have to pay in taxes. And that's great, but let's look at the next column. What if we had a capital gains tax savings? In the highest tax bracket, it's often 20% federal, and then there's a 3.8 net investment income tax on top of it. So I'm calling it 23.8, not including the 5% Iowa state tax here. So if somebody were to give an asset, the cost of that gift would be only $41.21 for that same $100 gift because of their tax savings. And then if you add depreciation recapture or other taxes onto that, we're just giving the donor more, right? When we give the donor more for their gift, they're likely to give us more as well. Any questions on that? So when it comes to plan giving, a lot of people think it's legacy planning, right? It's a gift in your will or trust, a beneficiary designation, or something along those lines. I like to consider any type of planned gift something that takes planning. That even includes stock gifts or other asset gifts. We just found out that when we teach them to give us stock, we're teaching them to be better philanthropists. So there's the legacy gifts that we know that we can ask for, and it's actually a really, really easy conversation. And there's also smart tax advantage gifts. So we're gonna kind of get into a little bit of both of them today. Because creating your philanthropic legacy allows them to live into their philanthropy for the rest of their life. When somebody makes a commitment to leave a legacy to your organization, now they get to wake up every day knowing that they are making a difference, that they're going to make a difference. And also, it's so easy because they don't need the assets anymore, right? They're gone. You know, how much is too much to leave your kids? That's one of my favorite questions to ask people. You know, at what point do they get so spoiled that you don't even need to worry about gifting them those assets? So for me and my family, it's an easy conversation when I meet with donors because I've given 10% of my estate. So my husband and I, we have 3 children, and we sat them down and we said, okay, girls, instead of getting 33.33%, you're each gonna get 30%. We're gonna give the rest to 7 nonprofits that we care about. And when we sat them down and had that conversation with them, they're like, oh, of course, we know how philanthropic you guys are. That makes sense. Now, when you're able to do that and teach your kids what's important to you, you're passing on more than just money or lessons of life, but you're passing on your morals and values. And when you talk to a donor, that I will usually use my example and say, I did this, have you ever considered doing it? That's not a bad ask. People say that they don't like plan giving or legacy planning because you're talking about death and taxes. Guess what? death and taxes are two things none of us can avoid. We're all going to have to deal with them at one point in time or another. Does anybody know what the current US death rate is? 100%. Nobody's getting out of this one alive. That's right. So having a conversation that can inspire your donors to think bigger and beyond can be really motivating and really not just good for your organization, but good for them and good for their family and their heirs. I love asking for the percent of an estate. The other, if you're talking about asset gifts, why not ask them if they want to disinherit the IRS? Who doesn't want to do that? Actually, I've only met like 2 people that actually like paying taxes, and they're adamant about it. That's fine. You know, that's great to pay taxes. But when we can divert our tax dollars to causes that we're passionate about, we're a better society. Not just for the great work you guys are out there doing, but because that just made that person happier. Right? Giving makes you happy and happy makes you live long. Statistically, when people give gifts to nonprofits, their life expectancy goes up. There's some other considerations, right, John, that we talked about earlier today, demographics and what have you, but it helps people to increase their own life. So we're gonna get into some psychology. I think it's really important to understand who we're talking about, who we're talking with, and get those components, because when we understand the psychology, these types of asks can be really quite easy. So we'll go through 8 concepts. So people give to people. Now, some of you, if you're newer in your organization, you could be like, okay, you know, that's great, but I don't really have a long-standing relationship with my donors. So if people give to people, then are they going to actually give to me? But people give to people means that you need to connect them with some person in your organization. That could be one of your benefactors. It could be with other donors like them. It could be a board member, or it could be yourself. So we'll talk about how we build that character and that trust with our donors to have you become that trusted resource. That's the next one, I guess, trust. So how do we build trust? So Dr. Russell James also he has a lot of grad students who get to do all this research for him. So he's got some great studies out there on oxytocin. Now, oxytocin's that hormone that gets released in your brain when you feel love, connection, bonding with another human being. And he found that oxytocin, that chemical, is released in your brain when a person shares stories about themselves and when they give gifts to nonprofit organizations. So we'll get into my kind of outline for how to have a great conversation with a donor. But if you are able to get them to talk about themselves at least 75% of the time, and then ask them more deep, meaningful questions to get them to expand and share more, you are now that person's new best friend. We in our society don't do a good enough job listening. The more you listen, the more trust you are creating with your donors and releasing of that oxytocin, getting that rush going on in their brain. I think also, I'll refer to it a couple times. Donald Miller wrote a book called Story Branding. And his conclusion is, if you look at all the successful movies over time, they all follow a certain pathway. And part of that is that we need to make our donors the hero of the story, not necessarily our organizations or the work that we do. We want to build that trust and that connection. Having them be the hero of their own journey will get us better gifts, it's a great way to do stewardship, and more commitment over time from our donors. Our 4th concept, so I do a lot of technical stuff, so I have the fun transition so nobody falls asleep. So you have to ask for a gift where the actual donors or clients have the money. So this is showing that nonprofits, 85% of the gifts that come into nonprofits are cash, only 15% assets. However, when you look at a person's wealth, how much do they have sitting on the sidelines in cash? Not much, less than 5%. So why are we asking for gifts from the small bucket? They feel cash poor. It doesn't matter how rich people are. They're not sitting with hundreds of thousands of dollars in their bank account just waiting to donate that. So if we can ask for gifts of assets, we also are going to help them with taxes, right? Because they can give appreciated assets. So we can help them save taxes and they can do more by giving assets for your mission than they could just by giving cash because they're getting more tax benefits. So this is just a colorful chart to show where people's wealth is. It's just kind of fun. So we start with an individual who has a net worth of 10,000, 100,000, million, all the way down to a billion. And this is the green cash button or green cash column, and then their home and other types of assets. But you'll see down here, when you actually start looking at real estate and business interests, that's the majority of where the wealth is in our country. So starting conversations with our donors about gifts of assets can be extremely powerful and can help you achieve more. And again, why ask for funds from the small bucket when there are so many different types of assets that we can have our donors donate and create more impact? So the fifth concept is cash is antisocial. And you might think, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. But when you go over to your friend's house for dinner, do you go and slap a couple $20 bills on the table and say, thank you so much, this was so fabulous? Or do you bring a bottle of wine or flowers or some sort of gift? So when we're having transactions with our donors about cash giving, it is a transaction versus we can get to know them better. We can have a deeper relationship with them if we're asking for asset gifts and go down the journey of what that looks like with them. So people will give more when they receive more. When they get more tax deductions, when they realize how much that gift actually costs them, they're much more likely to make a larger gift, a second gift, and be a more loyal donor. And plan giving creates loyalty. That's my puppy Oso. She's a Great Pyrenees. We got a bunch of birds and like chickens and ducks and turkeys and all that. She keeps them safe from the Arizona coyotes. So this is another study that was done. I stole it again from Dr. Russell James. The purple bar, but I color coded it, so it's better now. The purple bar here in the middle is the time frame when somebody decides to leave a gift in their will or their trust. So the black bars here prior are the years before they're giving, their annual giving the years prior. The red bars are the giving after they've decided to leave a gift in their will or trust. What you see here is more than doubling of their annual gifting when people decide to leave a gift in their will or trust. I will say a lot of organizations have said, great, we can ask for somebody to leave a gift in their estate, or even me, I'm 47, like how long do they have to wait to get my 10% of our estate? But when you have that commitment, they want to make sure that you're going to survive, that you're going to have the funding that you need, that you're able to accomplish those things because they've made that commitment to you and your organization and their will or trust. So their annual giving will go up. You'll also have an easier time asking for funds in the future because they're more connected to you. And one thing that I don't think that we can ever look away from with planned giving is stewardship. When somebody decides to leave a gift in their will or trust, they can change their mind at any time. So we need to make sure that we're having good stewardship, that we're interacting with their donors, that they are feeling that we care about them so that those gifts do stay with the organization. And you should be doing that for your donors anyway. And you get the oxytocin rush. So one other huge benefit around plan giving is it allows you to create an endowment and get that funding and sustainability. When you have a legacy gift come in, they're large usually. I think the national average is $50,000, but I think that's on the low side. It could easily be hundreds of thousands of dollars that you receive, and putting some of that aside into an endowment and creating sustainability for your organization. So when anybody ever talks to me about creating an endowment or getting going on that, the first thing I say is, well, you got to start with a plan giving program. Because if you're going to have that endowment and build that sustainability for your organization, then you need to have these types of gifts and these tools in your tool belt. And so, some charities at times will be thinking, we need to act a little desperate and really, let them know how much we need a gift. But the reality is that donors want to give to successful organizations that they know are going to be around for a long time. So when you have that endowment, when you are creating your plan giving program and you're sharing that with them, they see that you're going to be around for the long term, and it will really impact their loyalty for your organization. So any questions so far on donor psychology, or does anybody have like a quick scenario that they saw this in action? Okay, quiet crowd. So we're going to get into the 12 components of a successful plan giving program. So this is really taking 12 steps or components and giving you the working tools. So some of your handouts will be in there that will go into these more in depth. And this is really kind of the major handout that goes over the 12 different concepts that you need to have to develop a plan giving program. So you need a list, a strategic plan, you need to have goals, you need just a little bit of the understanding of the tools. All you really have to do is start the conversations. Asking for testimonials is a fabulous way to build your plan giving program, because you're getting that oxytocin going again, right? When people are reminded about the gifts that they gave. I also totally believe in creating a legacy society. And of course, you have to do marketing and campaigns. But if you don't engage your board and leadership, it can be very difficult to keep a sustainable program alive. And one of the worst things I hate to see is when an organization creates a plan giving program and then lets it subside and nobody is actively doing anything with it. That can be detrimental to those donors who have made that commitment. So my goal is to make it easy for you, so that with those stewardship things that you need to do, creating that legacy society, we want it to be easy for you so that your organization can sustain it over time. So I believe in creating two lists. One, you can go to your database, and that's the second one, but you can go through your database and list and find these great people that you're going to reach out to, that you're going to start marketing to. But the way that I like, since a lot of people here don't have a plan giving program already in place, pick your 5 to 10 favorite donors. And you can do very easy things. Ask them for a practice conversation. Ask them for a testimonial. Ask them if they want to be part of the Legacy Society or a founding partner. Ask them for advice. So I like to start that way, because you need to be comfortable in starting these conversations so that you continue those conversations. Your database prospects, I like to put it out in tiers. So tier 1 is your best donors, hopefully, but it is people that are older, and they're a little bit more willing to talk about legacy planning, and the gift would probably come in a little bit quicker. They've given 7 out of the last 10 years. We need loyalty. Plan giving is all about loyalty and creating these relationships with our donors. The estate over 2 million, that's great, but it's not necessary. I have seen volunteers that have no children go ahead and give their whole home. And sure, it doesn't seem like much, but they didn't have much for assets, but $500,000 from the sale of their home at their death is a pretty substantial gift. So they don't have to have a lot of money to be a great plan giving prospect. We like it when they don't have children because then we don't have to ask them how much is too much to leave to your kids. But even if they do have kids, like I do, they could still be a great prospect. And I like it when they have a tax issue because then we can talk about some of those asset gifts. And the estate tax out there right now, I don't know how much you guys pay attention to it. I pay a lot of attention to it. It's right now at $11.61 million. So that means that people who have wealth above that are going to have to pay estate taxes. People who are below that, which is most everybody except for a few, except for a rare few, they're going to get a step up in basis at their death, and they're not going to have to worry about estate taxes. But there's a sunset provision coming at the end of next year, and that is going to go down to about 7 million is my feelings and thoughts. It could be renewed, but I've been in this industry for a long time. I've seen it down, well, 1 year there was no estate tax exemption, but down to $1 million. So just because the estate taxes are so high, the exemption for having to pay estate taxes is so high right now, doesn't mean that it shouldn't be something that you're considering and talking to your donors about, because estate taxes are optional. There's a charitable lead trust out there that somebody can write into their will and say, you know what, anything that's above the estate tax exemption, it's going to go to a charitable lead trust. A charitable lead trust gives you income now. So it can be a great tool and strategy to talk about with your donors. So if they do have an estate tax or an income tax issue, it's great conversations to have. And then we have tier 2 and tier 3. So go through your database, and if you have a lot of people in tier 1, don't worry about the other tiers. If you have a small list, you might want to consider starting at tier 3. So I mentioned this a minute ago, but when we ask for conversations with our donors, it can be so simple. We can ask them, as I mentioned, for a practice conversation. Ask them for a testimonial. Ask them if they would give their advice. Ask them if they want to join the Legacy Society and be an inaugural member. Ask them if they might know other donors that might be able to benefit from plan giving and conversations with you. So starting the conversation doesn't have to be hard, and it's more about being there and listening to them. So just start the conversation. These are some of my favorite ways to ask for a plan giving conversation. So many of our donors like you. So let's stop there for one quick second. We mentioned that people give to people. Our donors, our friends, all of us want to connect with other people like us. We want to see ourselves in other people, and we are going to be much more responsive when we connect with people like us, or we see people like us doing things. So many of our donors, like you, give gifts that are more tax advantaged than cash. Can we get together and explore that? You've been such a loyal donor. Can we talk about maximizing your benefits of your generosity? Can I explore some of those gift planning options with you? You've made such an impact on our organization. Have you ever considered a gift in your will or your trust? Notice I always start with a thank you or an acknowledgement. You want to, set the stage nice, right? If you start with an acknowledgement, all things are received better, especially if you want to tell your spouse something. And so you can read through some of the others. But the other thing when we're asking for these conversations, you don't want to ask for a yes or no question. You want to lead into it. So asking for a meeting, hey, are mornings or afternoons better? What does your schedule look like for next week? So having those open-ended questions where they can't say no quite so quickly is another tool to utilize when you're asking for conversations with your donors. And know if they don't do any sort of planned giving, all it is a stewardship call. What's wrong with meeting with some of your best donors and having a great conversation with them and sharing more about what your organization is up to and getting to know them better? So there's really no downside. And like I mentioned, this is a tool in your tool belt. If they say no to a planned gift, be like, well, you really lit up or you glowed when I was talking about this program that we're doing. Would you consider maybe increasing your annual gift for that or becoming an annual donor to support that? So there's lots of ways to go about it. So with a plan giving conversation, I have a formula for it. So first, it always starts with a thank you and checking in with them. Understanding, if you can take notes on your donors, note their kids' names, note their pets, find out who and what's important to them and ask about them when you're having a conversation with them. So then build rapport. So here we're going to ask about their loved ones. We're going to mirror their body language and their vocabulary. So people connect with people like us, right? So if you're sitting in a meeting with your donor and you start doing some of the same hand gestures or the mirroring their body language or their actual words coming out of their mouth, they're gonna feel more connected to you. So the third component is find their purpose and passion and have them talk. I like to say at least 75% of the time, but 50 to 75%. At lunch today, we were having a conversation about really allowing the donors to be able to have to be heard. And we were talking about, so somebody says that they came from Boston. Our first reaction is going to be, well, oh, I used to live in Boston, right? You want to build that connection with them, but maybe you just pause and ask and wait, let them tell their whole story. Ask them a question to deepen about Boston or about anything else that they said, and then later come in and relate on that topic. It doesn't have to be right then. So this can also not just help with donors, it can help with spouses too. And then after they share about themselves, I like to ask, one of my favorite questions is, what's your favorite gift you've ever given? Whether it was monetary or not. And you'll be surprised to hear some of their answers, but get them to think, get them to share with you who they are and what they are up to and what they're passionate about. You're building that oxytocin, you're getting synapses in the brain firing. So ask those good quality questions that get them talking more. Then I like to share a story about a planned gift. 99.9% of the time when I do it, it's about me. But I share the story about my kids and the 10% that we have going to charity. I also share that we have a donor advised fund, and we have our kids grant twice a year from the donor advised fund, and they have to do the research on those charitable organizations to do the grant. I could be a much better mother, and I would say then that they should also volunteer for that organization, but I haven't quite hit that one yet. But donor advised funds can be a great way to teach philanthropy to future generations. So, finding some story, if it's not about your giving, maybe another donor or somebody in your organization that was impacted by someone's significant gift. And then ask them about their intentions. And like, okay, great. That whole conversation, I didn't even ask them for any money or anything. Most plan giving conversations are going to last 2 to 5. Sometimes if it's a complex gift, you might have to have 10 meetings. So you don't have to ask the first meeting. Know that you're there for the stewardship, you're building that relationship, you're enhancing the trust, and you don't have to ask. A good way to ask, though, would be sharing after you learn about what's important to them. Find a connection in your side of your organization, something that you're doing, a program or a project, and share with them about that and say, have you ever considered giving to something along these lines. But when it is time to actually have the ask, and it could be the first meeting, the case for action is it's out there, but I think that this really can impact when we ask for a gift, because first you want to state out there or ask them, what's the current reality? What's the predictable future? And what is the new possibility? And when you do that, they're asking themselves for the gift. Testimonials, component number 3. I've touched on this, how important it is. We know, obviously, I love oxytocin, right? I should just get a big O on my shirt for oxytocin. But when we ask for testimonials, not only are we getting them to think about their gift, relive it, those emotions of what they were able to do are now getting regenerated. And we also, it makes for the perfect opportunity to ask for another gift, right? They could talk about the impact. You could share what impact their gift caused. And they very generically or organically could want to continue to make more of an impact on that. It also is people give to people, and people like to be with people like them. It's an opportunity for you to market plan giving in an absolutely fabulous, and I find the most powerful way, is when you share the testimonials. So get a picture of them, put their testimonial on your website, your marketing material, put it on handouts, put it anywhere. And you particularly want to utilize that when for people of their demographic. So, if you've got a young donor, you're probably going to want to showcase that story for other young donors. If it's an older donor, you want to showcase that story for older donors. But this really can be a really powerful way to acknowledge, steward, maybe potentially get another gift, and create a marketing plan, all with just testimonials. So I mentioned Donald Miller's building a story brand. He has these questions to get people to make a good testimonial. And it's close to the call for action too, of how are things before? How did you feel? What was the predictable future? What got transformed? And then what are the results? So you can use this. Sometimes it's a little not necessarily as philanthropically focused, but there's an example. The next component is building a strategic plan. And I know we've all hear about all these awesome strategic plans and all of that, but the important part of it that it has action items associated with it. So this is my strategic plan for plan giving. It has the 5 components, the 5 pillars of engaging loyal donors, having support materials, campaigns and marketing, gift commitments, the actual asks for the gifts, and the stewardship. But it's based on and around having conversations with our donor. And once you get to the end, you just keep on looping around that cycle. Then what I do for nonprofit clients that I work with, I do this, and then I have an action plan that has what it is that we're going to do, what is the expected date that we want to have it done by, who's in charge of it, what is the outcome that we want to accomplish, any notes, and then the completed date so that you can keep working on it. But if you don't have a plan, it's hard to implement a program. And I get not a lot of you want to have another job of being a plan giving officer. So it doesn't have to be a huge, intricate plan. Making a few steps, starting a legacy society, getting testimonials, putting it up on your website, having conversations with donors can make your organization successful. The next thing, well, and this isn't necessarily an order of what you need to, order of needing to accomplish a little bit, but each organization is going to be totally different. But engaging with your board and leadership is crucial, not only for what we talked about to keep the plan giving program going over time so that we don't let our legacy donors lapse. But it also can be a powerful tool to get commitments. So this is I try to give you guys like actionable stuff so that you can like take this presentation, go use it, make it your own, and you can get started right away with plan giving. But this is something that I like to give to board members and ask them to choose 3 to 5 components that they are going to do inside of here that can enhance the organization. You'll notice giving is only a part of it. There's a lot of other ways to engage with them as well. And then I like to make them sign it so that they feel that they're actually making a commitment. What would be better than getting 100% participation from your board of directors in their own plan gifts? Great place to start, right? Having conversations with your board members and your leadership and letting them know that, hey, if we had 100% participation in doing a plan giving, doing some sort of plan gift, how does that make you look to your donors? Now you're super strong, right? You're a successful organization that is having all of your board participate in plan giving. Yes.
Like you say this, like, so let's say we're a board,
Mm-hmm.
and then, but now all of a sudden she leaves in a bad way. Is she able to then be like, no, like once you make this gift, is it still there, or is it changing your mind?
It really can, most of the time, you can change your mind at any point in time. So if she leaves and it had a bad experience, so one of my, I mentored a nonprofit, the Cancer Support Community, and they had that. They had a donor, an old board member who made $1 million gift or made $1 million commitment in his estate plan, and they had to ask him to leave their board. We didn't check with him to make sure that he wasn't going to do it, but I'm pretty sure he's not going to give that $1 million now. So that's why it's important to have the stewardship because most gifts you can change your mind at any point in time. So I was with the YWCA and they wanted to do 100% board participation, and their executive director, she has a special needs daughter. And I've never heard of this condition before, but apparently her daughter can't stop eating. So like she literally has to like lock the refrigerator. And so they have a special needs trust for her and all of that, but she didn't want to. She totally supported creating the plan giving program, 100% board participation, but she didn't want to go in and mess with her estate plan. So what she did is she went ahead and purchased a life insurance policy. Now she could give, less money for a death benefit that would happen in the future. So just know that there's a lot of flexibility and ways that people can give, so that if they have a circumstance like that and they can't or don't want to change their estate plan, doing a beneficiary designation of an IRA, those get double taxed, and they're going to get taxed to the next generation. Best asset to give. We'll get into that in a bit. And so there's a lot of different options. So don't feel like you're nailing down your board. I will say you're going to be successful if they choose to do it. I did a presentation this morning for professional advisors about business owners and selling businesses. And I always say that business owners are not dogs. Doesn't matter how much they're paying you. They don't want to be told what to do. They're cats. How do you get a cat to do what you want them to do? You got to point the laser pointer at the right spot in the wall so that they think that it's their idea. And so if you can go to your board and share, how do you do this? I like stories. I'm a big story person. So sharing stories about other organizations that had 100% participation and how much their giving from their donors went up when they realized that. Or, it could be a real situation, or you can kind of make one up. Oh, hey, I heard about this in a presentation. But to get the board members to think that it's their idea, that this would be a great tool and impact for your organization. Creating a legacy society. Now, this to me is one of the important steps not to be looked over. You can create a legacy society, choose some benefits that they receive, And now you have the perfect conversation starter. We just started our Legacy Society. Would you be interested in learning more about it? With your level of giving, we would love to have you be an inaugural member. Or we're starting a Legacy Society. We would love to pick your brain and get your input about the Legacy Society. Could you meet with us? Or, hey, we just started the Legacy Society. You've been such a long-standing supporter of our organization. We think that you might know some other people that might want to be part of the Legacy Society. Would you come in and brainstorm with us? Now, each time you get that meeting with the donor, of course, you're going to be, using those tools, getting that oxytocin, sharing with them about how they might be able to give, but you did it in a nice, soft, gentle way. So Legacy Society is crucial to getting a program started. If you're going to do anything, I would do that. What I like to do, starting a Legacy Society, if you make it too difficult, your organization's not going to continue, right? It's going to fall through the cracks. So I like to include the Legacy Society benefits with your highest tier donor benefits. So whatever your highest tiers of donors are getting, is there a special event or something along those lines? Include your Legacy Society members with that, because your highest level donors are great Legacy Society prospects. And then at the event, you can have someone share their story about their legacy gift. So in an effort to make it easy, I like combining it. Also, I think it's, cross-pollinating well as also. So the other thing that I like to do for Legacy Societies is if you have an event already, do a champagne toast beforehand or something along those lines. Don't go create a standalone event for your Legacy Society until maybe you're really well trenched and you know that it's going to be going and it's successful, or you already have your program in place. You can do other events, but offer them preferred seating at the gala. You don't really actually even have to do it, but you can let them feel like that they're going to get a better seat. Or you can say that they're going to get an invitation to something before anybody else. They're not going to know if they're really getting the invitation before somebody else is, but now they feel more special. So don't make it hard to follow through. So pick a few benefits that your Legacy Society members can take, you can implement, and I always will include too with the Legacy Society, one thing that I think is so empowering about it is they get to be with other people like them, right? Other people who are passionate about your organization like they are. Those are potential friends. Those are people that they can connect with in the community. And after COVID, I have my three daughters are 22, 20, and 18. And I don't know if any of you noticed, but kids don't know how to socialize. My 16-year-old came home the other day and she's like, Mom, my friends say that I'm that I flirt with boys and stuff. And I'm like, she's like, I'm not flirting with them. I just talk to them and I look them in the eye and I'm like, it's because you have communication skills, honey. Your friends are just lacking a little bit. But creating a Legacy Society can be an awesome way to do that stewardship piece as well. So having goals. This is one of those components that isn't my favorite, because some organizations don't like to give credit to development officers for things like legacy gifts. How do you quantify that? How do you qualify that? How do you know what is going on in the organization? So there is national standards here on this link. That's the National Charitable Gift Planners Association on how to account for planned gifts. I like to have it be more about our donor interactions versus the dollars that actually come in. It's great to, you definitely want to be following and listing out the dollars that come in from planned giving, but that shouldn't be the only way that you recognize your staff or development people. It's not just about the money, it's about the donor interactions and creating that stewardship. Marketing and campaigns. There is a handout on this. It's a 2-pager that just goes through, kind of the basic concepts of marketing and plan giving. What it takes people 8 times to actually see something and take action on it. So simple things like creating a tagline on your email signature. You use your newsletters. You're already doing those. Put in a plan giving piece each time. Social media. Have some of your social media posts out there. One thing that's really popular in the plan giving community right now is surveys. People like to give advice. Like what is it? I think I have this on a different slide because I quote Pitbull. Ask for advice, get money twice, right? Somebody more important than that said it, but it's in a song I listen to. So, ask them to take a survey and gain some information about them. And your question on plan giving can be as simple as, have you ever considered leaving us in your estate plan? I like to do it with a lot of different options for them to pick. I've thought about it. I haven't thought about it. I'm interested in learning more. Not at this time, but I don't like to give them a no. Also with marketing, telling stories is top. You're going to get much more traction by telling stories than trying to state facts. And who was it that did research that if you send out an email and the story's on the top of the email, it gets like much more time in that email is spent because it's getting their attention. So do stories and put them at the top of your whatever marketing piece that you're doing. Don't make it overly complex. Keep it simple, stupid. And you don't have to get into all the tools and all the stuff that you need to know. Update your website. I've met quite a few nonprofits that are like, I can't get anything going on plan giving until there's stuff on the website. Yeah, I don't know. I think you just have to start with conversations with your donors, right? I mean, that's all we really have to have. But for your website, Crescendo, all these companies out there have these big complex plan giving websites. I think that they get down rabbit holes when they get into too much technical information. I think that a website should be, your main goal is to have them reach out to you because you want to start that conversation. There is a wide variety of tools and strategies for them to make a plan gift. Starting with a conversation with you is, for me, the best call to action that you can do. Obviously, like we talked about so much, share testimonials, plaster those testimonials. If you want to talk about a particular strategy, like we're going to go through a charitable remainder trust today. If you want to talk about that charitable remainder trust, share a story about somebody who gave with their charitable remainder trust. They'll understand it much better. So understanding the tools, don't feel like you're on your own private island. You don't have to know everything. You just start the conversation. The donors' advisors can help. You guys in the Midwest, you guys are good. You have good advisors around here who know more about plan giving. I know because I'm a Minnesotan originally. In Arizona, we're in the way out west, man. Those advisors are not very good at some of these strategies. So you can definitely use your donors' advisors and work with them to help implement a gift. Just don't be surprised if they know less than you do, because that definitely can happen. But that's what we're here for, right? We have the Community Foundation of Greater Des Moines here to support you. You start these conversations. You build relationships with each other. Call each other up. Hey, I have this gift. Call the Community Foundation up and say, hey, I have this donor. Can you help guide me through what some of the options might be? They would love that. So know that you have community resources around you. You don't have to understand all of the tools. This is a tools matrix that I created. You can't see it on top here. It's donor benefits across the top. So we're looking at, do they receive a tax deduction? Does it help with different types of taxation? Can they be trustee? All those types of things. And here's your 12 most common planning tools for each one of those. And some people say that they like this section the most, the notes for charity, like a retained life estate. that can take a lot of really good planning. Retained life estate is when somebody gives you their house now, but they stay in it and they get a tax deduction today, but they get to stay in it till they die. Well, what happens if they don't pay the taxes? What happens if a tree falls on the roof and they don't do anything about it? So hopefully those little comments can help. And then on the back side of that is just a little explanation of each of the different planning tools that are discussed on the other side. And my favorite thing on the planet is charitable trusts. I've done over 40 of them. I don't draft them or anything, though I advise on them. So this is a charitable trust tools matrix that go through the different types of charitable trusts, what taxation that's helping, what tax problems that's helping, and then just more information about who gets to be trustee, who receives the funds at the end of what have you of the trust. So that can be a tools matrix for you to keep it easy. You don't have to know all of it, that's for sure. Policies and procedures are important with plan giving. Your most important one is your gift acceptance policies. Also, letter of intent that class on the bottom, you can change your mind at any time. When you do a letter of intent and have them sign it, I recommend that you get the contact information for the attorney, the kids, whoever's going to be helping implement the gift when that donor is no longer available. You need to have bequest language. Make sure your tax identification number is well entrenched inside of that. And then windfall policies. We talked about the importance of endowment. And my recommendation on windfall policies is that when a large gift comes in that you weren't expecting and that you haven't earmarked for something else, that you do at least half of that into an endowment. If you don't have an endowment yet, what a great way to start it. Because what I've seen people do is get large windfall gifts come in, they start some program, it goes for 4 years, and now there's no funding for that program. What was the good of that gift? So I highly recommend a windfall policy with an endowment. It depends on your organization. Yeah, it depends. Yeah, it does. So what I consider with a windfall depends if you already have if you already have an endowment. If you already have an endowment, I'd say 50,000 or above is fine. If you're going to start the endowment, maybe you want it to be 100,000, 200,000 to get that accounting going. But the Community Foundation of Des Moines, Greater Des Moines, can certainly help you with your endowments. So gift acceptance policies, there's only 5 things you need in your gift acceptance policy. I've seen them go for like 46 pages. I've seen them be like 2 pages. You can get as elaborate as you want, but all you need to really say in there is that we're going to follow the IRS guidelines, that we reserve the right to refuse any gift for any reason. We will not act as trustee. There are some institutions that will be a trustee of a charitable trust or something along those lines. Since you guys aren't having a plan giving program, definitely don't be trustee. And actually I'm working right now where it got really bad. Well, we have a donor died and left a gift, and they made the development officer, they had a trustee, but then he resigned. He never filed the taxes. The person died in 2021. I went through 8 different accountants. Nobody wants to do an estate tax return. And there was no step up in basis on the account. So taxes were due. So we did pay the taxes, but I was actually just working on that earlier this morning, or yeah, before you guys got here. So don't be trustee, and let them know that you don't offer any tax or legal advice, that they need to do that on their own. Last component is a professional advisory board. For this room, since most of you are not having a plan giving program, hold off on this. But creating a professional advisory board is a way to get new donors. 90% of plan giving is coming from your existing donors, your loyal people who know your mission and who care. This is a way for you to meet financial, tax, and legal advisors in your community and have them make introductions to their clients. There's a piece on this that you can review, but I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Any questions about the 12 components before we move into a couple tools? Awesome. Yeah.
So you mentioned contact information for others. I'm curious how much you suggest trying to engage with that next generation or those executors before, and how common it is that somebody else would change the intent of a planned gift as you get to the end of life.
So that actually happens a lot more than you think of. Let's say that the kids are acting as the trustee of it and you don't have a letter of intent. They could just be like, oh, mom and dad wanted what? Go to who? We're just going to keep it all. So that can definitely happen. That's why the letter of intent is important. Your level of interaction with the trustee of their trust depends on the donor. Some of them don't want their kids to know. Some of them don't want you talking to their kids. So I would do that on a case-by-case scenario. Okay. So we're going to go over the lowest hanging fruit, and I want to be respectful of time and still have some time at the end for questions. But what are our lowest hanging fruit for planned giving? Legacy or estate gifts. How easy is it for asking somebody to put a gift in their will or trust? You might think, okay, well, then they got to go to the attorney. Well, that's when we have beneficiary designations of life insurance and retirement accounts can be great ways to get planned gifts. Stock gifts, we mentioned that's teaching them to come to you to be more than just a charity, but helping them to save more on taxes. And retirement assets, this is huge. So all of our IRAs, all of the money that comes out of the IRA gets taxed at ordinary income tax rates, the highest rates. You die and your IRA goes to your kids, they have 10 years to liquidate that whole account and they have to pay taxes on it as well too. If the person has an estate tax, they can be double taxed with their IRA assets. Asking for a qualified charitable distribution from an IRA or to make you as a beneficiary of their IRA is so easy and so powerful. So we'll definitely get into that. And then real estate and business interest. There's 3 times more wealth in real estate than there is in the US stock market. And business interests, as we saw, a lot of our wealthier people have highly concentrated business interests and our baby boomers are getting older. We were talking about that this morning. So stock gifts. So you get the same deduction as you would a cash gift. You're also saving the capital gains tax on any of the appreciation. You're able to add value to the donor and now they can give more. So what does that look like? Well, let's say somebody says, oh, yeah, you know what, I've got Apple stock, it's just soaring in value, but I don't want to sell it. I like my portfolio. I think it's going to go even higher. Well, that's when you can have the conversation with them of buying back that stock. So they can give it to you, take the money that they were going to give in cash and use that to buy that stock. Now their investment portfolio hasn't changed. I just realized that's on the next slide. But when you do a stock gift, you've got not only the deduction that you would get for a cash gift, but the tax savings on capital gains. And then, with the stock gift, like I mentioned, you can gift the stock, get the deduction for the full fair market value of the stock. And then that donor can go ahead and take cash that they were going to give anyway and buy back the stock. I mentioned IRAs, assets can get double taxation. They qualify for income tax and also estate taxes. And so let's go through qualified charitable distribution. So qualified charitable distribution is you can give $100,000 of your IRA to a charity. And as long as the money never touches the donor's hands, there's no taxation on it. Donors love this because they don't want to pay ordinary income taxes on their required minimum distributions. And there's some really large IRAs out there. So that $100,000 is also now being indexed for inflation. So it's up to 105 this year. And next year it'll be higher, we hope. Oh, and with inflation, I'm sure it will be. Again, you can review these slides after the fact. So we're going to take a scenario of a 73-year-old, and he has $500,000 in his IRA. And currently his required minimum distribution is around $20,000. It's actually more like 23 in this circumstance, but I just wanted to use round numbers. He is at a 25% tax bracket, and he's currently giving $10,000 a year to his favorite charity. So if we look at not doing a qualified charitable distribution, he has that $20,000 required minimum distribution from his IRA. He pays the tax on it. That leaves him with $15,000. He makes his $10,000 gift, and he has $5,000 in his pocket. Now, what if we put in a qualified charitable distribution here? So after doing qualified charitable distribution, he takes that same $20,000 IRA distribution, but now we go ahead and gift straight from the IRA to charity. We can give more. So here we gave $13,000 to his favorite charity. That nets him a $7,000 distribution at a 25% tax rate. He now has $5,250 in his pocket. Charity got 30% more. He ended up with 5% more. The donor ended up with 5% more back in their pocket. And one thing that people don't always understand about required minimum distributions is that it can push the donor into a higher tax bracket and have their Medicare and Social Security taxed as well too. So this is a great gift to give. Their kids are gonna have to give it, are gonna have to pay taxes on it anyway. IRA assets should be the first gifts that we ask for. Now gifts. You have to be 70 and a half to accomplish this. To get your required minimum distributions, you don't necessarily have to be, so the required minimum distributions is going up to about 73 now. So you can start taking qualified charitable distributions, giving it to your charity before you have to take required minimum distributions to decrease the size of your IRA. So Secure Act 2.0 put in some nice provisions that allows our donors to do a $50,000 distribution from their IRA and put that into a charitable gift annuity or a charitable remainder trust. Spoiler alert, the charitable remainder trust probably isn't worth doing because there is too much legal fees to draft the document. But a charitable gift annuity is absolutely awesome. They're going to get income for life, and you're going to get the remainder interest at the end. And so this is also, you could have a couple each do it, but they can only do it once, and it's capped at $50,000. And some of you might come from organizations that might not want to handle gift annuities because it becomes a general claims liability of your organization. But there are organizations like the Community Foundation and John Severson here with the National Gift Annuity Foundation that can actually manage your gift annuities for you and just give you the check when the person dies. They can handle all of the heavy lifting. So it's definitely something to talk to your donors about. I like gift annuities for people who don't like the stock market. They get a steady income stream that they can count on for life. Bequests. A nice, easy way to give. We've got on the left assets that get a step up in basis at death, meaning let's say I bought a piece of property for $100,000 20 years ago. Now it's worth $1 million. If I were to pass away now, that would get a step up in basis at the $1 million. So my kids wouldn't owe taxes on it. So the assets that get a step up in basis are your most of your assets. However, the ones that don't, or I like to call it, well, technical term, income in respect to decedent, meaning that the kids are going to have to pay taxes on it if they inherit it, are your cash, obviously, but qualified retirement accounts and investment annuity gains. So like we mentioned, let's give that IRA away and make it the beneficiary, make you the beneficiary of the IRA. So let's get those assets that don't get a step up in basis. They can easily, both of those asset classes, you can fill out one form, not have to go see an attorney or anyone else, and they can change the beneficiary designation to you or the contingent beneficiary to you. So know that it doesn't always have to be the main beneficiary. So I always like to ask people, 5, 10, 50% can make a real impact on whatever it is that you are up to in your mission. But what about even just 1%? If you go to them and say, hey, have you ever considered leaving us 10% of your trust? They're like, oh no, my kids definitely need that money. Oh, well, maybe just 1%. I mean, getting a board to have 100% commitment to plain giving and having them give 1%, that's not hard. It could be, though, if they don't want to adjust their estate plan, they could put you on as 1% of their IRA beneficiaries. We're going to get into charitable trusts next. So the thing to know about charitable trusts, people try to make them way too complex. They don't need to be. They are a great strategy that is very flexible. But what you need to know is if you have a charitable remainder trust is for capital gains tax. So I would not recommend putting cash into a charitable remainder trust. It's for when you have a capital gains tax issue. It also helps with income tax. It gives you an income tax deduction. It can help with estate taxes as well. But when you're thinking about the different types of trusts, charitable trusts out there, just know a charitable remainder trust is for capital gains or appreciated assets. Your grantor style charitable lead trust helps with income tax problems. And your charitable lead trust is for estate taxes. You can wipe out 100% of your estate tax liability by using a charitable lead trust. We won't get into those other ones today. We're just gonna hop into a charitable remainder trust. Oh, how many of you have watched CNBC and hear that guy scream at you about what stocks you should be buying? Jim Cramer from Mad Money. Yeah, so whenever he discloses what stocks he personally owns, he will always disclose that it is owned by the Jim Cramer Family Charitable Remainder Trust. Just like to let you know that people you know are out there doing it. The Charitable Remainder Trust has also been in the tax code since 1969. So what is it? Here's kind of the general concept of it. So we have an apple tree. This is an asset. And we put that apple tree inside of a charitable trust. And at the end of life or lives or a term of years or it could be both, you get the tree. So the charity gets the tree at the end. The donor gets to be the trustee if they would like. They get to fertilize the tree, know how it's invested, manage it, and then they also get the apples. They get the income from that trust for their lifetime. And then charity gets it in the end. So this is a quick example. I'm gonna wrap this up in a few minutes so we have time for questions. But we have here a sale of a business. I never like to use a tool more than you have to. So in this circumstance, we're gonna say we're only gonna use half inside a charitable remainder trust. So we're gonna allocate $1 million into a charitable remainder trust. And when we title it into the charitable remainder trust, we're now able to sell it completely tax-free. In this example, we saved $288,000 in capital gains taxes. That's 20% federal, 3.8 net investment, and 5% state taxes. We then, after death second, charity, you, or a donor advised fund will receive the remainder interest. And because of that, this donor gets an income tax deduction upfront for their future gift. They're also able to take income. We chose 5% here. Their lifetime income. This couple didn't want to disinherit their children, so we went ahead and bought life insurance with that income. And they were able to get 2.2 million of lifetime income. The kids get $1 million. Charity or the donor advised fund gets about 2 million. But let's look at that income tax deduction here. If they're in a 40% tax bracket, because we sold the $1 million outside of the trust, they would be in the highest bracket. That's $106,000 back in their pocket. So our tax savings is nearly $400,000 by using this charitable trust. Now, that's all great, but let's look at it without using the charitable trust. Here we have the same, we're going to compare apples to apples, but the same $1 million with no basis. We pay the $288,000 in capital gains tax. We have 712 working for us. We still take 5%, but we come out with less lifetime income. The kids get the inheritance, charity gets nothing, and the IRS wins. So when we compare these, we're looking at on the left of a sale with no trust, and on the right, sale using a charitable remainder trust. So lifetime income went up from 1.5 to 2.2 after we bought life insurance. The kids got a little bit more in the first with the inheritance, but we could have bought more life insurance if we wanted. Charity wins. And then that income tax savings we said was 106 back in their pocket. Well, we need to grow that over their lifetime so that we can compare fully. And that's over $1 million. So this family came out 3.6 million ahead. And I tell people that you don't have to be charitable to have a charitable trust make sense. And I have sold it to people who are not charitable or who didn't feel that they were charitable in the beginning. I wouldn't say sell it, but I have, helped them accomplish this. But if you look here, so if it's a $3.6 million benefit, and you say, okay, yeah, but charity is getting 2 million for the uncharitable. I know nobody in this room would think that, but we still ended up 1.6 million ahead on $1 million asset for this family. Where this doesn't work is if they die young. There's a lot of flexibility with this tool. You can add a term of years for the kids if you don't want to do life insurance. There's just a lot. I just want to show you that the benefit, my goal is for showing you the charitable remainder trust is not to give you a complex tool, is to show you that when we keep our taxes working for us, we can come out ahead. And there are great strategies out there for your donors that can help accomplish that. Again, I won't go through the slides that have go through all of them, but you can use it for most any appreciated asset except for S corporations. So, this is a tool that you'd want to work with an advisor on, and or the community foundation. So I feel that there's never been a better time for plan giving. It's your choice. Are you gonna be worried about your donors worried about going to the tax office or being able to enjoy their life? So again, you're not on your own. You're not on your own private island. You have your community foundation here. You have resources. There are third-party nonprofits. Oh, I skipped over that, didn't I? Because that's one thing that you have to have in your gift acceptance policies is that you can use a third-party nonprofit. So let's say you get this real estate gift, or somebody passes away and leaves you their home. Is that in your best interest to manage the sale of that home and all the stuff inside of it? Nah, I believe in using third-party nonprofits. They have the specialty. The donor gets the same tax deduction. The third-party nonprofit gets to do all the work, and you get the money. They'll just write you a check. Might be a little bit less, but what you would have to pay to figure it all out yourself, I don't believe is worth it. So I hope that you have a better understanding of donor psychology and ask for gifts from the large bucket and look for the lowest hanging fruit. And hopefully you gain some knowledge out of this presentation and you can help your donors unleash their generosity. Any questions? This is my disclosure, but I'm no longer licensed. So I don't have to have it up there. Yeah.
About the building that says I've made provisions in my estate.
Mm-hmm.
You get 10%.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that you would say we want to know what that 10% value is today.
Mm-hmm.
And then how appropriate is it and how long do we wait to see if that 10% has appreciated and now it's worth?
So great question. And I'm just, because I know we have online people as well, so I'm going to reiterate what your question was. If somebody's giving 10%, do we ask what the value of that 10% is now? Do we, and then how do we know if it's grown over time? When is the right time to go back and ask? So in my letter of intent, I always have a place for them to fill out the value. Not everybody will. So you're not always going to know. And some of them will want to let you know. Others are not going to. If they don't want to, and you know it's 10% of their estate, look up their house, see what their home value is, and you can get an idea of potentially what their wealth is, and you can have kind of an idea to count the gift. But again, that's why counting planned gifts is so difficult. When can you go back to that donor and have the conversation of, hey, how well have you been doing in the stock market these days? It depends on the donor, stewardship, but I think, if you've got a good relationship with that donor and just say, do you want to sit down and revisit your letter of intent? I probably wouldn't have that be the full purpose of the meeting, but, get together, having whatever, and mention to them, yeah, with your letter of intent, I just want to make sure that everything is still accurate and up to date. And then that's why I have the contact information for the next generation on there as well too. Something that you asked made me think about making sure that you have somebody to communicate with about that gift in the future. Oh, definitely. I think that's absolutely fabulous. And so for those who are online, the comment was that donor advised fund gifts need to have a succession plan. So asking those donors who give to you from their donor advised fund about their succession for their donor advised fund, because it could then be paid to you outright at the end. Awesome. Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Like to learn more about plan giving, come to the Mid-Iowa Plan Giving Council's annual conference on plan giving on October 15th, 2 weeks yesterday. Registrations are still available. You go to midiowaplangivingcouncil.org, I think it is. And you click on the conference button and you can register. It'll be from 8 to 4 at the Botanical Center. And you'll have everything that Tiffany told you today at Plan 10. Concentrated. You'll have a headache when you're done.
Yes, definitely. So again, for those online, there you do have a local Mid-Iowa Plan Giving Council, and their conference is coming up October 15th. I love my Plan Giving Council. Actually, I'm just getting on the board of National CGP, Charitable Gift Planners. I was president of my council. My husband's now president this year of the council, and my dad was a past president. Great people, great opportunity to collaborate with other charities to help with things like this, to have conversations, to interact, and to grow and develop together. Anything else? All right.
I think that's a perfect segue too. So thank you so much, Tiffany. Just a couple of quick notes. We will be sending the slides in a follow-up email, and we'll have the link to sign up for that conference as well. So watch for our email to come out soon with the slides and any additional resources from today. My name's Ellie Burns. I'm the Senior Director of Nonprofit Relations here at the Community Foundation. I just dove in because so many of you look so familiar, so it's great to see you all. Just wanted to bring up a few of our resources. We have our Give DSM page. If you don't have an ask up there, please consider doing that, especially end of the year. We're always promoting Give DSM as a great way for donors to explore new or old nonprofits that they might want to give to, so they can learn about immediate needs, capital campaigns, or even you can list ongoing support needs on Give DSM. So check that out. We have some trainings coming up before the end of the year. This year, we have a Giving Tuesday training next week. So keep an eye out on our website for all of the trainings that are coming up throughout the rest of this year and early next year. If you don't get our newsletters, we have newsletters for the charitable giving team and the community impact team. So please feel free to sign up for those. That's a great way to learn about different events and networking opportunities that are coming up. And then just one final thing, this space, the C3 Center space, is available for rent. We have Maddie's that's available, as well as Barry's boardroom that's down the hallway if you want to check that out. So if you do have a board meeting or something that you're looking for, even a new space or a different space to connect in, please feel free to reach out, and we've got that space available. So we just want to say thank you all so much for being here today. We appreciate seeing you, and thanks again to Tiffany. We appreciate hearing from you. So have a great day.